The presidential election in 2024 is probably the most important election in our country's history.
You're looking at a Biden-Trump rematch that 2/3 of the country doesn't want.
I'm Dave Gardner. I'm running for president.
The billionaire class has been taking everything and leaving everybody else to fight for the scraps.
You're right to talk about economic growth and restoring that American dream.
Gross domestic product has now become a fetish.
You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your fairy tales of eternal economic growth.
We humans have outgrown our planet.
Is growth really making us richer, or is it making us poorer?
We've got to scale back.
We need people to reimagine a lifestyle which requires much less energy and material.
Didn't Elon Musk actually say one of the biggest issues that we're facing is underpopulation?
Let's not be afraid to talk about overpopulation, because it is not about taking rights away from people. It is about giving opportunities to women, children, and future generations.
I'm Dave Gardner, and welcome to this special virtual town hall and also an episode of the Dave the Planet podcast. I appreciate you being out there in the audience and appreciate you following the campaign and whatever support you've been able to give us during the past year. And I would like to welcome my running mate, Stefanie Hawks-Johnson. Hi, Stefanie. How are you?
I'm doing great, Dave. How are you?
Good. Also with me here in our online studio, we have Chris Bystruff. Hi, Chris.
Hi.
Valued member of the campaign team. And Allie Richardson, and also a valued member of the campaign team.
Hi there.
Allie and Chris have both been on a few of our other online events, and Allie applied for the running mate position, so you might have seen her really great video applying for running mate. It was really tough not to be able to pick a couple of running mates, but of course all of you will have cabinet positions when I'm elected.
Excellent.
So are you all ready to move to DC? Before we move any further down the road, I want to do something that I'm trying to do every time I'm talking to an audience these days, and I'm trying to do what I would do as President of the United States and what I would encourage all of our news media to do, and that is to update everyone on the carbon dioxide content of the atmosphere. Now, we're trying to get out of ecological overshoot, and the ecological overshoot crisis emergency is much more than just the climate crisis, but the climate crisis is a key part of that and an urgent part of that. So we should be keeping track of that. I mean, every day at the top of the weather forecast, we should be told what the current carbon dioxide content of the atmosphere is. And you can see here from this graphic. If you look in the show notes, I'll be sure to put a link where you can get this. We're, a little worse than we were a year ago, and the trend needs to be in the other direction. Oh, I wanted to offer a few notes about the title of this town hall. We called it Make Earth Great Again. And we had a little bit of a conversation about it, the campaign team, because we didn't realize until we Googled it when we were thinking about using it that RFK Jr. in his campaign, he had used it a little, apparently. If you go to his website, you can find some Make Earth Great Again merch that you can buy. But I can't say that I listened to a bunch of his stump speeches, so I don't know how often he uttered those words. But we decided, because even we hadn't heard about it, that it was up for grabs. But I do want to share a few instances of it that I found, and there's some merch from his website right there. But there's also a group in the UK that decided this summer that they ought to use that slogan, and they've made some T-shirts. And this is one from their website. And I wanted to share this one because I really like the rest of the T-shirt, No Music on a Dead Planet, because we've been talking about Dead Planet. And he's right, no music on a dead planet. Believe it or not, even before RFK, I think, started using it, it turns out that Bill Maher made use of it back in 2017. And so I want to share with you a little bit from when Bill Maher did that.
Stop looking for the Goldilocks planet. This is it. Mars doesn't have cool breezes or trees or mangoes or butterflies. There's no kale for liberals. No opioids for conservatives. There's no waterfalls, no hot springs, no rainforests, no rainbows. In the greatest song ever about the environment, Don Henley sang, "There is no more new frontier. We have got to make it here." I don't want to be a multi-planet species. Fuck Mars. It's time to make Earth great again.
Yeah, and he even played that great Don Henley song, Last Resort, which is really good.
When was that?
Sometime in 2017. And I don't remember having actually seen that at the time, although I'm a pretty regular viewer of Bill Maher. I want to welcome in the viewing audience Jan Mulder, who's trying to join us here. Let's see if he's successful. Hey, Jan, we can see you. Let's see if we hear you.
Hi there.
Yeah, great. Jan, you'll recognize from his accent that he's not a Texan.
No, I'm not I'm not from Texas.
Jan has been a valued member of the campaign team, but he's actually European and lives in Europe. So it's really bugged him that he couldn't make any campaign contributions, because that's not allowed for us to have foreign campaign contributions. But contributions of intellect have been really valued. So thanks for that, Jan.
You're welcome.
And I don't see any questions or anything yet. So I guess we should go on to the big announcement that we promised to make today as a part of this virtual town hall. This announcement will not terminate this town hall or this episode of the podcast by any means. We still have a lot to say. But basically, we wanted to let you know, live and in person, that we've made the decision to end my campaign for President of the United States, and that's also Stefanie Hawks-Johnson's campaign for Vice President. And it was all too short for my running mate, but it's been a little over a year for me, and we've decided that it's time to officially terminate the campaign. We are not terminating our activity, but we're going to be making some changes, and we'll talk a little bit about what those changes might look like, and we'd certainly love your ideas. So please type into the chat if you're watching on YouTube or watching on StreamYard. Type into the chat if you've got some input for us, so we can figure that out together. As you probably know, gosh, it's been over a month now since I announced that I was going to vote for Kamala Harris, and I wanted to encourage any supporters or followers to vote for Kamala as well. I don't think I need to explain that, but it's been a disappointment to some people that I did that, and they've even written to me and said, "I'm going to write you in because we need to make a statement." And the truth is, this campaign for president this year is just too strange. There's no opportunity to make a statement. We couldn't even get any news coverage, and that was because everyone is so darn focused on this, really the threat of possibly returning Donald Trump to the White House. That made anyone who might support this campaign really nervous about supporting this campaign, because they didn't want their vote to possibly make it be a spoiler and make it possible for Donald Trump to be reelected to the White House. And I decided that was true as well. It was just too important. And you know what? I want to briefly just mention, to me, the importance of defeating Trump. I think it ought to be pretty obvious, but to a third of the country, I guess it isn't that obvious. For him to round third base and head for home and really be someone who should be a candidate for U.S. president, he really needs to have integrity and decency. Any candidate that doesn't have integrity and decency hasn't earned the right to be a candidate. So I don't think Donald Trump I think it's clear Donald Trump doesn't round third base. Well, let's go back and look at second base. What do you have to do to round second base? You have to be competent. And we haven't really seen any evidence that Donald Trump was competent in the White House the first time around, and lots of evidence that he wouldn't be competent today. His campaign speeches are crazy. We hear about Hannibal Lecter, the late, great Hannibal Lecter, all the time, and no explanation about why that is and why that would be relevant at all. So competence, not demonstrated. And then what would he have to do to round first base? He would have to not be a criminal. If you're a criminal, case is closed. You don't even have to think about the other qualifications for somebody who's worthy of being elected president of the United States. We should not elect a criminal. And it's clear as a bell. It's been adjudicated. He's been found guilty of 34 counts in one trial, and there are other trials coming up where he could be judged innocent, but he's also been judged to be liable for sexual abuse. And he and his company have been found guilty of cooking the books in New York State. So, criminal. That leaves us with Kamala Harris, and Kamala Harris, I got to say it, and I'm not going to say it a lot until after she's elected, but her policies are dead planet policies too, unfortunately. And that's why I ran to begin with. It's an emergency, an ecological overshoot emergency. We need a president who is not going to leave our kids a dead planet. And Kamala Harris, if things don't change, it'll be at least a presidency with some honesty and integrity and competence. But we've got to make sure that it's also a presidency that makes some big changes so that we don't leave our kids a dead planet. And I think that's part of what we can talk about today is what we might want to do with the work that we've done so far. You guys have anything you want to add to those thoughts?
Well, Dave, I actually will add something too. I think that, you touched on something that was pretty important, that a third of our country is supporting Trump. And the question is why? We really need to make the connection right now to how important our world is and our ecology is and our environment is to our health and our well-being. And there's so many that don't know that we have that connection that's so important for our lives and for our health, not just saving animals and saving plants and such. It's actually for our health that we need a healthy environment. And we need to focus away from all the politics and this craziness that we have going on in our political system right now. It's just absolutely nuts. My daughter was back in the Midwest just recently, and she actually said, "Mom, there's hats that say I'm voting for a convicted criminal. I'm voting for a convicted criminal." So people are actually proud of actually voting for a convicted criminal. And so where is the missing connection here? Where is the missing connection? That's what we need to focus on. We need to focus on making that connection, that important connection that Trump's not for us. Kamala's really not for us, but she actually is the better choice, obviously. We need to actually say, who is for us that is actually going to make this planet a healthy, thriving planet that is good for everyone and every species.
I think she may lack some knowledge and awareness, but I think she genuinely wants to make life better for everyone else. She's not focused on making life better for herself like the other candidate. Yeah.
I'd like to say something about how unbelievable this election cycle is. I hear it over and over again. It's unbelievable. A man with 34 felony convictions found liable for sexual assault, not sexual abuse, sexual assault, which is equivalent to rape. can even be a candidate, much less the nominee, much less garnering, 50% of the vote, is unbelievable. And I keep shouting back at the radio, if something's unbelievable, you shouldn't be believing it. So the system is extremely broken. And I'm afraid we're not talking about how broken it really is. I really don't think there's a way to fix it from the inside. I'm sorry, but running for president was a valiant effort, but we're trying to get into the system and fix it. But I really don't think there's a way to do it because it is so extremely broken. I believe if I tell you how many ways I think it are broken, outside of the small circle, I would be labeled a conspiracy theorist. But behind all the ways that the system is broken, there's real evidence that it is. Disinformation is rampant now. Money can buy messaging time, can buy eyeball time, and money can suppress other posts. I've been finding this, as over time when I try to search for certain controversial issues on YouTube or on Google. They tend to disappear or get further down the list on time in the search list. And there certainly Google and other social media suppress certain messages. They do this openly, and they pump up certain messages. And so what does that mean? It means that now money is dictating the facts that are available to us. That's a way that the system is totally broken. It's gotten away from democracy and gone toward an oligarchy. And you can shut me up anytime you want. But
good points. Good points.
And I just want to add to Chris's definitely. Your message just now was just on point. 3 billionaires funded their campaigns in 2020. Mm-hmm. So it is about money now. It is all about money, and money gets the message through. It's not your voice. Our voices aren't being represented. We're not having the representation that we need.
When you think about it, in 2015, when Donald Trump rode down the escalator and announced that he was going to run for president, that he got a lot of coverage. Why? He hadn't done anything that made him, really newsworthy as a potential candidate, but he had a lot of money. Boom, got the coverage.
He had support from outside this country, from the dark powers of Russia, and he openly admits his affinity for Vladimir Putin, who's one of the richest people in the world and one who really openly wants to destroy democracy. And because of the Citizens United decision, there's no real barrier for money from foreign powers coming in. Even though Jan would like to give money to your campaign, others are successfully getting money in.
Because they're crooks.
Because they're crooks, and because there are plenty of U.S. citizens who are, Russian moles. There's Oleg Deripaski's and who is that name? Len Blatnovic and others who are U.S. citizens and Russian oligarchs.
There's got to be a reason that so many Republicans have come out against Donald Trump. Liz Cheney, the Lincoln Project, Republicans Against Trump, Adam Kinzinger, many who worked in Trump's first administration have openly said this man should not return to the White House. And that should make a difference to anyone who thinks the system is broken and thinks an outsider is the solution. That an outsider who's an incompetent crook is not the solution.
I'd like to add something, Dave, if that's okay. Something I think that Chris has mentioned, or he's the one that first brought it up to me in our meetings, was the ranked choice voting. And I don't know if you were going to get to that, but I think a lot of the reason why we did not have a lot of support too in our campaign was because people were afraid of again, losing the votes and it going towards Trump. But I think right now the ranked choice voting, it's available in a couple of states, and I think it's pretty popular and on the ballot for a lot, but I really feel like that is going to save democracy because it gives the people the power to choose. I think a lot of times when we have that two-party bipartisan system, it's really this or that, but it's a lot of times, and what I've noticed is that a lot of the candidates aren't qualified and they are going to give us a dead planet. We need another opportunity to vote for who we truly feel could run the country in the right way. And right now, the two-party system is just really devastating the way our country is ran.
I agree.
Yeah, I tend to agree too, although there are some people who have expressed some concern that it's still going to take money to navigate your way onto a ranked choice ballot. Because you can't have a ranked choice ballot with, 25 people that you could vote for, I don't think. So I think that's got to be a part of the solution, and I hope that we could make that work somehow without money taking over that as well.
In our country, it works with 25 people you can choose for.
Oh.
And it should work here. It doesn't solve the money problem. That's a separate problem. But ranked choice voting solves the problem of the spoiler effect, which was the death knell for the Dave the Planet campaign.
Yeah.
So I really think it's a critical. It doesn't solve all problems by any means, but at least opens a little bit of a door for third-party candidates.
But you're right, getting the money out should be very high on our agenda. If we can figure out a way to do that. Slap me, but I'm going to spend 2 more minutes on Donald Trump because I really want to share with you how many of you have heard that Bruce Springsteen came out and endorsed Kamala Harris just a couple of days ago.
Everybody.
I did not.
The news broke yesterday morning. I'm not sure when he posted this video, but it's about 3 minutes long, and I think we should just watch all 3 minutes of it because it's powerful. Are you guys okay with me sharing that for 3 minutes?
Please.
Absolutely.
All right, let's do it.
Hi, I'm Bruce Springsteen. Friends, fans, and the press have asked me who I'm supporting in this most important of elections. And with full knowledge that my opinions no more or less important than those of any of my fellow citizens, here's my answer. I'm supporting Kamala Harris for president and Tim Walz for vice president, and opposing Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Here's why. We are shortly coming upon one of the most consequential elections in our nation's history. Perhaps not since the Civil War has this great country felt as politically, spiritually, and emotionally divided as it does then at this moment. It doesn't have to be this way. The common values, the shared stories that make us a great and united nation are waiting to be rediscovered and retold once again. Now that will take time, hard work, intelligence, faith, and women and men with the national good guiding their hearts. America is the most powerful nation on earth, not just because of her overwhelming military strength or economic power, but because of what she stands for, what she means, what she believes in. Freedom, social justice, equal opportunity, the right to be and love who you want. These are the things that make America great. Donald Trump is the most dangerous candidate for president in my lifetime. His disdain for the sanctity of our Constitution, the sanctity of democracy, the sanctity of the rule of law, and the sanctity of the peaceful transfer of power should disqualify him from the office of president ever again. He doesn't understand the meaning of this country, its history, or what it means to be deeply American. On the other hand, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are committed to a vision of this country that respects and includes everyone, regardless of class, religion, race, your political point of view, or sexual identity. And they want to grow our economy in a way that benefits all, not just the few like me on top. That's the vision of America I've been consistently writing about for 55 years. Now, everybody sees things different, and I respect your choice as a fellow citizen. But like you, I've only got one vote, and it's one of the most precious possessions that I have. That's why, come November 5th, I'll be casting my vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Thanks for listening.
What he said.
That's
great.
Absolutely, yeah. The most dangerous president that there could be. Absolutely.
The possible downfall of our democracy. In fact, I'm going to predict Donald Trump is going to win, and we're going to see the downfall of our democracy. That seems like where it's going. I'm sorry, but you've seen my posts about hopium?
No, haven't seen that. And we're going to kick you out of this town hall right now.
Hopium is when you let hope get in the way of action. I think in order to do something, you have to anticipate the worst. And the worst right now is Donald Trump's going to win. And I think it's going to happen because it's not just about the social media brainwashing of the voters. It's also about insider attacks on our election systems themselves. You might have been hearing about this recently with the conviction and sentencing of Tina Peters in Colorado. It has been quite a big brainwash, this whole issue of what's going on in Mesa County, Colorado. Tina Peters is being damned by the left as someone who's trying to rig the elections. In fact, she has discovered election rigging and is being shut up for 9 years. They're putting her in jail. So stuff is going on, and we're not finding out. I told you you're going to damn me as a conspiracy theorist and kick me out, but we'll see. I do think that you're going to see surprisingly twisted results in this election.
We have a comment from a viewer out there, Mike Hanauer, who actually is a campaign team member, who wrote, "Lying, making up stories, money, denial, packing the courts have now all become acceptable. The means to a win no longer matter. This gets in the way of anything to help the common good." And I think that we were kind of in that decline mode even before 2016. But I think, unfortunately for a significant portion of our population, Donald Trump's ascendance made it okay to be a crook, made it okay to be greedy, made it okay to be mean, made it okay to be a racist. All those things. There's a lot of people who are feeling, okay, I can be that because, well, he's my hero. That doesn't portend well for our future.
Can I spin that a little?
Feel free.
I think maybe it's not true that people really think it's okay to be a crook, but I do think that we're being told that. I think that the people who are purchasing time on social media want us to believe that. And that's going to drive the democracy down. If people really think we're broken so much that we're accepting criminals and sexual abusers as viable candidates for president, I have a hard time believing it. And when I think something is unbelievable, I tend to not believe it. And I think alternatives, reasons for that being true. And since we know money can buy belief, money buys time on social media. But in a sense, money buys belief because we believe what we see. And so you believe that people think that being a criminal is okay because you see so many people, saying that, or you see so many people, let's say, supporting a criminal, that you believe that they must believe that crime is okay. We're living in the through the looking glass world where you can no longer really believe what you see. You can't believe that, 20,000 hits on a YouTube video means 20,000 people watched it. You can't believe much. I'm sorry.
You should be.
It's not a happy time when Dave Gardner has to cancel his campaign, the last hope for a living planet. And so it's for me not a time to cheer.
Well, after that dousing of bad news, let me share some good news with you. Take a look at this. This is a letter that was sent in via email just a few days ago. I guess I better read it for the audio podcast. Nancy wrote, "Dear Dave, I would like to say thank you. I had been feeling pretty sad and hopeless about the harm and destruction humans are doing to our planet, and feeling isolated in my ability to see what is happening. While most people have their heads buried in the sand, then one day I came across your podcast and listened to your campaign speech, and for the first time in a very long time, I felt a feeling of hope. I thought, yes, someone gets it, and not only gets it, but is brave enough to speak it and run for president. Cheer. I want to thank you for giving me the gift of hope again. Nancy."
Dave, that's wonderful. That just gave me hope.
Makes me feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. To touch on what Chris said too, I don't think that so many people are morally bankrupt. I think most of us know what's happening. It's a matter of actually empowering people to make the change. And I think that's what we're doing here.
Well, we're working on it. Unfortunately, a lot of our impact is pretty invisible to us. It's probably more than we think. Things like that letter sort of tell me that, I think. And so we can't give up. People are discovering that there are other people who have the thoughts that they've been having, but they were reluctant to share because it didn't seem like anyone else was thinking the same things. And so we're slowly growing, as you said, we're slowly growing that contingent of people out there. And that's what we need, because we need enough people understanding this to give more people permission to come out of the closet on ecological overshoot and living within the means of the planet. And we need enough people who get that to give the policymakers permission to start changing policies to address the ecological overshoot emergency and to run for office with platforms a lot more like mine. That's got to happen. Somehow we're going to have to, the system's going to have to come along at some point. A lot of people think, tell me if you think I'm wrong, but a lot of people think that we can't do anything, that we have no agency. We have to wait until the system changes, because we can't, as an individual, you can't make a difference. And you've heard me time and time again, I say that's nonsense. Every individual can make a difference, because you're one drop in the bucket, but there's 3 million drops in a typical bucket. And if every drop decides to move in the more sustainable direction, that's 3 million. And how many buckets might there be of people who actually start changing their lives? And if enough of us have to change our lives before any of the politicians are going to take note and say, oh, I have permission to promote policies that will change this, the system in the way we need to.
Yeah, I agree. We should keep it going in some way or another, so that we can, so people can point to it and say, see, here's a guy that gets it. Maybe the next guy who comes around is going to look at Dave the Planet and say, oh, let's see, look, can I do that? And maybe when social media finally gets democratized and not so heavily weighted toward the donor class, those hits that you haven't been seeing are going to start to pop up, and you're going to see there are lots of drops in that bucket. Sorry, but now I'm promoting hope.
Well, it's easy to be a flip-flopper on that.
Yes, it is.
But that's one reason why I think it's really important to keep the DaveThePlanet2024.com website up and alive for as long as possible. Now, you guys know that the campaign was upside down. I had to loan the campaign some money, and it's not able to pay me back everything that I loaned to it. So we're not sitting with money in the bank that we can use to pay for domain registration and website hosting for the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. We're going to try, but you can't, and if you're watching or listening and you want to help us do that, you can't make a donation to the campaign because we've turned off that spigot because we're terminating the campaign. But what I'm proposing to do is turn over the mission to the nonprofit that I'd been running since 2006, Growth Busters, which Growth Busters has had to kind of take a break for the last year because it could not support a candidate for public office, and also I had too much to do, so I really had to take my Growth Busters hat off for the most part. But I'm getting ready to take the presidential candidate hat off and put the Growth Busters hat back on. And now that I'm not a candidate, Growth Busters can take on what this committee's been doing, and it can collect donations and hopefully will attract enough revenue to the Growth Busters nonprofit that Growth Busters can keep paying for the web hosting, and we can keep that website up for a long time. Of course, keeping the website up is just one aspect of our future work. Go ahead, Stefanie.
I agree with all of that, and I think it's really important to start making ties and connections with all these other wonderful organizations that you already have ties with, Dave. You know, Population Balance and the one that Florence runs, Population Matter, or not runs, but is part of Population Matters, things like that. I think it's important to bridge connections because we're not the only team that is caring about what's happening in the world. There's so many more, and to actually combine our efforts is critical. It really is, and it also will give us hope because we're not just doing this alone. It's bridging those connections and making our voices louder.
Perhaps one way we can think about doing that is to try and get a what do you call it, an umbrella group that can put somebody in the next COP, because degrowth has been a suppressed message. Population itself has been a very suppressed message within the UN, within the COP. So I think it's a valid effort to try and get that in the forefront of those discussions about climate again.
I think there are plenty of coalitions, so I'm not sure we need to create another one. The Stable Planet Alliance comes to mind. That may be the best one, but there may be others that are just as worthy. But it certainly would behoove us to take a look at that. I've had limited involvement with Stable Planet Alliance lately because I've been too busy, and they were a nonprofit, so they really couldn't do a lot or anything to support my candidacy. But you mentioned, Stefanie, you mentioned Population Matters and Population Media Center. And of course, Bill Ryerson, the CEO of Population Media Center, when I initially announced my candidacy, he said, I love what you're doing, but I can't officially endorse you because of the nonprofit status of Population Media Center. But I wonder whether, in trying to think about why we didn't get more news, why more organizations didn't get behind us, or at least, just tell their stakeholders about this exciting campaign. As far as I could tell, there wasn't a lot of that going on. And it could be, one, I think population, the fact that our platform is that we are going to reverse population growth. That's sort of the third rail, and a lot of people are reluctant to be associated with someone who's talking about overpopulation and reducing population. Now, certainly the population-oriented nonprofits wouldn't have that issue, but some of the economic organizations, I genuinely believe that they probably did, that they thought, well, it looks like they're doing some good stuff, but we really just don't want to potentially get tarred and feathered with that population stigma.
Just to add to that, we can't be afraid, no matter what. In my opinion, we can't be afraid to talk talk about overpopulation. It is the critical juncture to everything that we're facing, environmental, social, you name it. It is the critical thing. And I think going with blazing guns, if you will, to talk about this, and brave to talk about this, because so many have shifted the words like runaway population or talking about degrowth, but we're not talking about the real crux that we're adding 80 million people a year to the planet, and that's unsustainable for our planet. We can't be at 8 billion. And again, I will always throw out that stat that 96% of the mammalian biomass on Earth is humans and what humans eat right now. And 100 years ago, that was only 30%. That should be alarming to anybody, because that's not good for us, and it's not good for any of the animals, obviously. So talking about that overpopulation, we should be just grasping that word and actually saying, no, it's not that we want bad things for humans. We want good things for humans. We want to change the world for the good. And our world is beyond. When I heard the word ecological overshoot, I didn't even know what it was. When I first joined I first started listening to podcast on population balance, when with them, Dave. But scientists call it carrying capacity, and every scientist that has taken an ecology course knows that there's a carrying capacity for every species. Well, we've gone way past that with agricultural means. Because of agriculture, we've gone way past our carrying capacity, and we're killing the planet. And so embrace the overpopulation for the good of all people and the good of all species.
I wonder, do you guys think that maybe this population third rail, the toxicity of discussing human overpopulation, do you think that might have kept some of the journalists from doing stories about this campaign?
I think so.
I think definitely.
Yeah.
So I heard on the radio the other day a call-in mentioned overpopulation, and the announcer immediately said, "Oh, that's related to eugenics." I laugh, but it's so sad that that's the first connection people make,
right,
when you mention population. So, but with what Stefanie says is all correct. But I have to hope that eventually the truth comes out if you keep on speaking the truth, and we should keep on doing that. And the lack of traction is not necessarily just because of the message. I think the lack of traction is because of something I mentioned before, that money owns social media and social media owns elections. And if you don't have money, there was an article by like the tech side of social media that says that it was titled like the end of organic growth in social media, meaning only pumped growth is happening in social media, boosted or whatever you call it. Organic growth is when your likes are due to actual people seeing it.
Yeah, our social media, we thought we could use social media to get around the mainstream media if they ignored us, but we didn't have enough donation revenue to pay to boost our social media posts. So we were pretty invisible in social media, sad to say.
So it sounds like a dead end. So my question is, what is the way? What is the way forward when all you see is dead ends? You don't see money coming in. You don't see journalism because you don't see the impact. How do you get your foot in the door with a campaign like this?
As a part of the answer to that, and I don't want to take too much of the microphone time, I want to hear other people's thoughts too, but I really want to own our own failings. Because I think part of what we want to do, whoever does it in the future, is to learn a valuable lesson that I think we've learned, and that is that there were some things I think we could have done and should have done that maybe could have overcome some of these obstacles. But money is, of course, a big one. We didn't have the money to hire anybody, so there was no paid staff. So we had no campaign manager. We had no treasurer. I had to be the treasurer. I had to be the campaign manager. I had to be the media creation crew. And I was the one with the most media relations expertise. So we had no media relations expert. Allie, thank you for helping a lot on the media relations activity. But of course, you were pretty new at that. And that just wasn't enough. I mean, we really needed a media relations expert every day working hard to sell this story. You know, I think if we just, none of us had enough time to really work on relationships with some of these journalists and not give up and get back to them. And, if this pitch doesn't work, try that pitch. We really had to just hope that one news release would get somebody fired up. We didn't have a chance to really nurture and pour water, irrigate the farm. We planted the seeds, but we didn't take good care of the seeds. So I think that's one thing is you've got to really have enough money to have some pros who can really work those because of the obstacles in our path.
Didn't we simply give enough hope? Wasn't the campaign too dark?
That's a good question, Jan. Thanks for bringing that up. Maybe.
Because many people still rather have their head in the sand than listening to the truth. And if there's no hope, people simply give up. People simply say, no, not for me.
Well, we tried to offer hope, the Bright Future Project. Elect this guy if you want your kids to have a bright future. But I felt like we had to sort of lead with the fact that bright future's in danger. It's not going to happen if we don't do something different. And that certainly is a dark message.
Yeah, but the same with that answer, you take away the hope.
Yeah. So I certainly I did it imperfectly, maybe way too imperfectly. Any other thoughts among you about that?
I like what Jan is saying to give hope. And this is where I circle back to how do you go from 8 billion people to a sustainable population of what most population scientists think is 500 million to 3 billion living at a European standard of living. How do you do that? And I haven't heard that message, except for, again, I come back to some stats that either the United Nations or World Health Organization put out that they said if everyone decided on the planet to have 0 to 2 children or less, that we could actually get to those numbers within 50 to 100 years. And I think that message is really important because I think even in my scientific mind, I actually didn't understand how we can go from 8 billion to 3 billion or less.
Or less, yeah.
And so I think I see that message clearly lacking in our message and in most population advocates' message or population organizations' message. How do we do that? How do we do that? And if we have an answer, well, look it's just as simple. We actually, everybody on the planet has 2 or less children and we get to a sustainable level and all the people here still get to live and thrive.
I've been trying to sell that message within the insider community of population, advocates. And I'm not getting that much traction. I'm glad that you believe it. And I think it really is true that dropping the fertility is the peaceful way to get down to a lower population. But I've seen opposition. For example, there's a prominent population activist in Australia who says, called me a liar. The population is going to keep going up. It's not going to turn around peacefully. It's going to be disastrous. And somehow people are getting a kick out of the idea that there's going to be a major violent collapse. I want, somehow we have to get all on the same page. we don't want there to be a violent collapse. And in fact, the data as it appears right now is that there won't be, that there is a fertility collapse already going on. And when we have to accept that and embrace it, really. So why are people not embracing the drops in fertility that we're seeing worldwide? That's an insider question among population activists.
And, the answer is 99% of the people out there are blissfully ignorant.
Or they're listening to people like Elon Musk, who says, we're headed for disaster. You have to have more babies. And I've heard that from several people, too. They're like, there is an urgency. Like, we're in trouble.
Well, that keeps people blissfully ignorant, and they're going to stay that way as long as we can't, have these conversations and get the word out and, overcome that, reluctance to even discuss the population subject.
I want to add to that, though, because I think most people actually didn't believe Elon Musk. I saw a lot of pushback on that. And so I think his statement actually, there was a knee-jerk reaction. That's ridiculous, Musk. Our world is not underpopulated. And I heard it from a lot of different people.
Good.
So I'm hoping that outrageous, outlandish statement causes exactly the opposite, and that the overpopulation issue gets more attention because of it.
Rightfully, we've had quite a bit of conversation about overpopulation, but that means that we've ignored our system's current obsession with economic growth, and I really want to give that a minute. In fact, that was the one thing that disappointed me in Bruce Springsteen's message was he thought that was good, that Kamala wants to grow the economy, wants to grow the economy for the middle class or something like that. So clearly he doesn't understand that you can't have economic growth forever on a finite planet, and Kamala either doesn't understand it or recognizes that she can't get elected if she tells that truth. We told that truth, and that is that we're going to stop trying to grow the economy. We need to contract our economy. We're in overshoot, and until we get down to under 3 billion people, we particularly need to work really hard on contracting our economy. We can have a more robust economy with 1 billion or 2 billion people on the planet than we can with 8 billion. The math is there that tells us that with 8 billion people on the planet, we all have to live like paupers in order to avoid killing this planet. And that's almost as tricky a third rail as the population message, because, of course, everybody wants economic growth. Who would question that?
I see economic growth as equivalent to energy growth. And I think if there's one thing we can do, if we could target just one aspect of that, it would be cryptocurrency, which is taking up an inordinate amount of our energy. That and
AI.
And AI are those two things are responsible for eating up all the gains we've made in renewable energy.
People don't realize.
So let's circle back. We need to wrap up here pretty soon. So what else should be on our to-do list? What do we do going forward? Maybe some short-term things. We've talked a little bit about big picture, pie in the sky kind of stuff. But what about short-term? What do we need to have on our to-do list?
Resurrect growth busters.
Dave, I think having some individual personal conversations with others in the population movement would really benefit the movement forward. And just to get an idea of why there wasn't more support for this really critically important campaign.
It would be worth the ask. I'm not sure I can make the ask because they may not want to be honest with me. I mean, maybe they thought I sucked as a candidate.
But finding that out.
Yeah, we need to know. Yeah.
I saw no comments saying Dave sucks. That was not ever a comment.
Me neither.
But the truth is, we need a younger. I'm not running again, by the way. I'm not going to run in 4 years. I'm I'm turning 70 next year, and we don't need more old men as policymakers. We need some youngsters. We need Allie, maybe, and Stefanie. Even you're way younger than I am.
Together.
Not that young.
Let's do it. Let's aim for 4 years from now.
Well, so we should be looking for the next candidate, but if that is one of the things that we're doing, we also should be developing a plan to get enough money to have at least a little bit of a campaign staff to push through that. But there's got to be some other things on our list as well.
And let's not forget Josh.
Another member of our campaign team, and he had expressed an interest in being our candidate for president. Josh and I both kind of competed in private campaign team meetings to see who everybody thought would be the best candidate to put forward, and I think it was a pretty tough decision. I will tell you that I don't think this is the last episode of the Dave the Planet podcast, but probably we'll wind down the Dave the Planet podcast and try very hard to make sure anyone following this podcast is alerted to the fact that the Growth Busters podcast, which has been going for several years and has been on hiatus mostly for the last year, the Growth Busters podcast will be picking back up. I know we'll be recording our next episode in early November. So the Growth Busters podcast is going to continue, and I can't just keep doing 2 podcasts. That doesn't make any sense. So I wanted to let you know about that. What else, guys?
I think on the agenda, we should continue to look at the policies that people are making around the country, whether that's municipality level or higher up in the federal offices, because if we can promote what they're doing well, maybe that will be something that other people will want to carry on through too.
We had a couple comments. I looked away from the comment board for a minute, so let me catch us up on that. Mike Hanauer made a comment about Springsteen endorsing economic growth, and he thinks we should bring him around. We need to educate him about that. Maybe he'll write a song about that then. So there's a good idea. And it's nice to know that Josh Spodek is out there watching and listening to our conversation right now. So hi, Josh. Thanks for being invisible out there, and thanks for your help on this campaign. What else? Anybody else have any last-minute thoughts that they want to get in?
I'd say good try. Good try, everybody.
Good try. Power forward. Don't give up.
Exactly.
Yeah, and bravo. That's a great segue. I want to say bravo to you that we're seeing here. Stefanie, thank you. I wish that we had turned you into my running mate 6 months ago or 9 months ago. Imagine what we might have been able to do, because you're a really articulate spokesperson for overpopulation and for the rights of nature. I appreciate that. And Allie Richardson, you were a tremendous help. Couldn't have done it without you. Chris Bystroff, Chris, you have been a real honest voice, and sometimes telling us what we need to hear, want to hear, always telling us what we need to hear. We appreciate that. And Jan from across the Atlantic Ocean, you have been a source of, of moral support and had some really intelligent input to give us. And it's just been really nice to know that there's someone out there trying to live the sustainable life that we're talking about, who gets it and thinks it's important enough to join a campaign team in the country that's one of the biggest hogs on the planet. So thanks for that. And then I want to thank the rest of the campaign team, Florence Blondell, who really did a terrific job with our campaign kickoff, Robert Firevid, Mike Hanauer, Mike Skylark, Joshua Spodek. Josh, I know that this isn't the last we'll hear from you. You've got a book coming out, and we'll be talking to you and about you on the Growth Busters podcast. And Isaac Tate, also another member of the campaign team that we don't see today. Thank you all. It just means the world that you thought enough of our kids' future to give your time to this and your hearts to this effort. So thank you very much. And then I want to thank our supporters and followers out there. Some of you donated money. We appreciate that. Some of you helped, shared what we were doing with other people. We really needed that. Don't stop. Do that over at Growth Busters, please. And then lastly, I just want to leave you with something that Don Henley wrote in that song that Bill Maher talked about and played a little bit of back at the beginning of this podcast episode and webinar, town hall, whatever you want to call it. Don Henley wrote, "There is no more new frontier. We have got to make it here." Let's make it here. We've got to.
Amen.
Thank you, guys.
Amen. Thanks, Dave.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Take care.